there's a word that I've heard you use twice that was part of yesterday's keynote speech that spoke to not just being transactional, but being transformational.
Yeah.
And you've used that word several times already.
Well, you believe Yoda, right? Otherwise you wouldn't have plotted, nobody would like you. You believe. He's a puppet. He's a puppet. He's this big. He can't be a puppet to you guys. He's got to transform what you believe he thinks, what you believe you think he is. He cannot be just what he is. He's got to be more. He's got to have a life to transform so you guys believe in him. That's transformative to me.
I think it's important in talking about those moments when, as business people and as you're moving through daily situations and as things always come up and you have to deal with new things and you have dependency upon your team to realize the vision. When you're a leader, what do you do when there are those moments when you're unclear of where things are going?
It's a very good question because I have a vision to do something. I remember in Bullfin, I don't know if you saw that, it was Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy and stuff. But there was one scene I could not get. And I told the truth. I told the truth to Steve, and I told the truth to the other performers, and I said, guys, can you help me out? Can you work on a Saturday and just try to help me figure this out? What I don't do is lie. Because I did this once. I was working with Will Hoskins in a movie. I learned a lesson, boy. I learn all the time. And we were rehearsing in an empty stage, and Bob asked me a question about where the set is, and I said, I don't know, it doesn't matter. And he says, it doesn't matter. And I said, whoa, I get it. So, it's, everything matters.
And, and in keeping with that, I remember, again, I don't want to, I have so many experiences and so many things I've benefited from in listening to Frank and sharing with Frank. And one of the things that I remember is being on the set one day and you came up and you said, I want to tell you a story. Because I think that the scene was I just walked over and did something, right? And I think there was something else going on, and the main dialogue was really in the background and other things happening, and it was going to be a cutaway to me doing something. And you told me a story about two actors who were engaged in the dialogue, and this was a director from many years ago. And there was one actor that was in the scene, but he was back behind them and sort of not in the scene because he had no dialogue. And he was leaning his hand on the mantle, and they yelled action, they started filming, and here's these two people, and they're really giving their best takes. And then here you have this guy standing in the background, and he's sort of like looking around, and he's completely not in the moment. He's not a part of the scene, he's just doing his thing that had nothing to do with the film. And I remember you telling me that he walked over and asked the actor, what are you doing? And he said, well, what do you mean? I'm not in this scene because I'm not saying anything. And he said, oh, you are saying everything. You have lines, you're just choosing to not tell them. And I think that that's one of the things that you taught me about teamwork and leaders, that it might not be that you're always out front, but what you do greatly contributes to the overall end product, end result.
Everything matters. Everything matters when you're doing certainly in life. I think everything matters to each to different degrees. But certainly when you're doing a film, when I'm directing a film and I edit it, it's different from theater. Theater, see the stage, this is the theater stage, right? Not film. Your eyes can wander around. You can look over there, you can look at LT, go over here, look over there. You're in charge. You can look where you want to. A film, I'm in charge. I tell you where to look. Okay? I cut, I edit. I say, okay, here's a close-up, here's a wide shot. You have no choice. You have to look where I'm telling you, look, because I manipulate you, and you want me to manipulate you into an emotional state where cumulatively you appreciate what's being said here. That means every shot matters. That means if some guy's in the back, you're looking at everything. Your concentration is much more focused than here. So everything matters. And so that guy ruined the scene.
Speaking about, because you're talking about making those decisions and having a vision and executing that so that you literally are just determining what people are going to get before they even know that they're getting it. Right? Have you ever made mistakes? Have you, oh my God, I mean, talk about the things that help grow that dynamic as a person and as a director.
Help what?
I guess in essence, what are some mistakes that you've made maybe in a film that caused you to become a better director in that film, or even in the future, how did you handle that situation?
Well, even in the Edward Norton thing, I learned, in other areas I learned just to shut up. Shut up. Allow somebody else to breathe. That's, as a director, the early movies I did, I felt I had to get in there. And what I learned more than else was just be quiet and let the other person attempt it. And then you can kind of go in and shape it gently because you see what they're doing. But if you jump in first, you'll never see what they're doing. You'll never see their contribution. I've made so many mistakes. I remember one with Bob De Niro. I don't know, I think this is not really anything I learned. This is just pure humiliation. Okay? I remember doing the score, and I had just done a movie called Bullfinger, which is a comedy with Steve and Eddie and other people. And so in a comedy, you have to go in. You have to shape the jokes. Because every time a joke doesn't work in a comedy, it is that less of a comedy. A comedy is defined by laughter. And if you don't have some, it's not a comedy. A drama is different in my view. A drama, I let them live more, and I observe, and I choose, and I shoot in such a way that I'll be okay. But I was used to, we shot in Montreal. I was used to a comedy, so Bob was doing a scene. I went in, and I said something to Bob, and I forgot what it was. And I realized, oh, that was stupid. That was bad. And I went to Bob and said, Bob, I'm so sorry. And that was right. I mean, what I said, yeah, that was bad. He said, yeah, that was really bad, Frank. I thought, oh my God. It was the first week or something, Bob, too. Every movie I learned something, and in order to learn, you have to make mistakes. You can't learn without making mistakes. So, in an odd way, it's so difficult to make a mistake, but it's so valuable to learn from it. You know? And I can go into a lot of humiliating times for myself.
No, that's not. We won't put you there. But let's talk about, because I think it leads into my next question, which is working under pressure. And every day as business people, we have these things. I think we've sort of been talking about this. How you have to adapt, improvise, overcome, and it's stress, and there's a lot riding on things. In those moments, how do you make effective decisions? And maybe in putting this in a more framed ask of this question, can you speak about your experience in working with Marlon Brando on the score, and how that you worked through some of the things that maybe presented themselves in the way of a challenge to get an end result that you still wanted, and to have people work and get to a place, but you had to be smarter about how you got there?
Well, with Marlon, I wasn't smart. There's an aspect of Marlon I like to talk about, which is significant, I think, in any life. Maybe I'll just jump to that, because I think it has some value. Marlon came in to shoot for 3 weeks, and the costume designer, I met Marlon in his home for about 2 hours, and the costume designer flew there also and spent hours with the costumes. I'm making this shorter than it really is. Nevertheless, so Marlon came over on the first day. He was in the trailer with the costume person, with me, with the producer, and he said, "Nothing fits. These costumes are not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's not." And then I said, "Well, Marlon will do whatever we can to help you, but you know, the costume designer has been working with you." He said, Nothing works. And by the way, and I had set up a location to shoot the next day. By the way, this location you're shooting, let's go find, you and I get in the car. He said, if you and I get in the car, we'll find a better location. I said, I haven't got a permit for that, Marlon. He said, no, it's not a good location. And I said, Marlon, I kind of said, I got to do this. And he said, okay, everybody clear the trailer except Frank.
Excuse me, we have a brick house segue right now.
What was the music? Is that your iPhone?
No, I think everybody in the audience might know where that came from.
Okay. Anyway, so Marlon was upset, and he said, everybody clear the trailer except Frank. Oh, just what we're here, right? In his trailer. And he, I won't tell you everything, this is private, but he essentially said, we're going to lock horns. And I said, Marlon, I had to do what I believe is best. And he continued, and then he insulted me. He said something about talent. He said, I don't even know if you're talented for that matter. And I reacted, I blew up, and I said, do not ever insult me. And I left the trailer. And I have a tendency, sadly, to just wander around when I'm mad. Just wander, like seething in anger. You know? Matter of fact, I walked to the parking lot, I was seething in anger. And well, what happened was that Marlon and I were staying in the same hotel in Montreal. And under my door, this is where under my door, he left an envelope, a letter. And I think it was a letter of apology, but I never read it. I said to myself, I am not going to let Marlon take over this production. And I foolishly, like an idiot, never opened it and sent it back. Because I was not going to let Marlon take over. And then we shot for about a day and a half, and eventually I realized, oh my, and I was tough on him. I was very tough because he was doing things his way which were appropriate for the role. And after a day and a half, I realized, oh my God, what have I done? I mean, you know, my ego's involved, and I realized it was too late. I lost Marlon. I lost him. So, and he, it was very tough for 3 weeks. He had to do what I said to the director, and the producer said he had to. But what I'm getting at is this. As a leader, I should have realized what happened to Marlon. And you wouldn't believe it, but Marlon was scared out of his mind. That's what it was. Marlon was frightened. And what I should have done as a leader is accepted that fear in the manner in which he was doing it and just kind of talk him through it. It doesn't do any good to blow up. It doesn't do any good at all. And I learned a great deal from that. And I had an actor in the next movie who blew up with me, and I learned so much. I was able to talk it through with him because of Marlon. But when you have employees, and I have employees, they're scared. A lot of them are scared. Actors are scared. You can go from the lowest actor to the biggest actor. Michael Caine, Marlon Brando, they're all frightened. And so when that kind of behavior comes up, what I've learned is not to bring my ego into it, but to nourish and allow that, and allow it to come. And then it's better. So I've learned that was a huge lesson to me, even though I lost them all in 3 weeks.